What if I told you that some of the deepest pain you've ever felt came from things that never actually happened? Think about that. How many nights have you lost sleep over a future that never arrived? How many times have you imagined losing someone you love, only to discover they were still there? How many conversations have you replayed in your mind before they ever took place? How many disasters have you survived inside your imagination while reality remained completely quiet? The heartbreaking truth is this: many of us are not suffering because life is hurting us. We are suffering because fear has convinced us that pain is always just around the corner. We grieve endings that haven't happened. We prepare for rejection that never comes. We carry tomorrow's burdens while trying to survive today. And little by little, we miss the life that is actually happening in front of us. The Buddha understood this thousands of years ago. He taught that an untrained mind can become a prison, creating storms that reality never intended. So if you're tired of overthinking, if you're exhausted from fighting invisible battles, if you're ready to stop sacrificing your peace to fears that may never come true, stay with me until the very end. Because this message may help you put down the burdens you've carried for far too long and remind you that most of your worries never become reality. But the peace available to you in this moment is real, and it has been waiting for you all along. The mind creates storms reality never intended. Think about the last time you worried. Not a small passing thought, but a worry that truly took hold of you. Close your eyes for a moment and remember it. What was it about? Maybe you imagined someone rejecting you. Maybe your partner sounded different on the phone and your mind immediately whispered, "Something is wrong." Maybe your boss sent you a short message that simply said, "Can we talk tomorrow?" And suddenly you were convinced you were going to lose your job. Maybe your child came home a little later than usual. Maybe a friend stopped replying to your messages. Maybe you made one small mistake and started believing it would destroy your future. Notice what happened next. Your heart began to race. Your chest felt tight. Your stomach twisted into knots. You couldn't focus on what was in front of you. You tried watching television, but your mind pulled you back into fear. You tried eating, but you couldn't enjoy the taste of the food. You tried sleeping, but your thoughts kept waking you up. Again and again you replayed the same frightening stories in your mind. What if the worst happens? What if I can't handle it? What if everything falls apart? You searched for answers that didn't exist. You tried to solve problems that had not even arrived. And all the while, your body reacted as if the danger was already standing in front of you. But then ask yourself an important question. What actually happened? How many times did the terrible future you imagined become real? For many of us, the answer is surprising. Many times, nothing happened at all. The storm existed only inside our minds. A woman once waited for her daughter to return home from school. She checked the clock again and again. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 20. Soon, 30 minutes had gone by. At first, she was simply waiting, but slowly, fear entered her mind. Maybe there was an accident. Maybe someone hurt her. Maybe something terrible happened. Maybe this is the worst day of my life. Her breathing became shallow. Her hands trembled. She walked from one room to another. She looked out of the window again and again. By the time her daughter finally walked through the front door smiling and apologizing because the school bus had broken down, the mother was completely exhausted. Reality had given her 30 minutes of waiting, but the mind had turned those 30 minutes into 30 minutes of suffering. How often do we do the same thing? A husband doesn't answer his phone for an hour and we imagine betrayal. A doctor asks for another test and we imagine the worst diagnosis. A loved one changes their tone of voice and we imagine abandonment. One mistake at work becomes the end of our career. One awkward conversation becomes proof that nobody likes us. The truth is, the human mind is incredibly creative. It can build entire stories from a single moment of uncertainty. Fear fills in the blanks with disaster. And because these stories feel real, our bodies respond as if they are real. This is how unnecessary suffering begins. The mind believes it is protecting us. It says, prepare for the worst, and maybe you won't get hurt. It creates worst-case scenarios because it thinks fear equals safety. But there is a difference between being prepared and being imprisoned by imagination. Preparation helps us act wisely. Fear keeps us trapped in battles that do not exist. The Buddha understood this deeply. He taught that thoughts naturally arise in the mind. Just as clouds move across the sky, thoughts move through our awareness. You cannot stop every fearful thought from appearing. You cannot control every worry that enters your mind. But you can choose what you do next. You do not have to believe every thought simply because it appeared. You do not have to follow every fearful story to its ending. The Buddha encouraged people to observe their thoughts instead of immediately obeying them. To pause and gently ask, is this actually happening right now? Do I know this is true? Am I responding to reality or am I responding to fear? Imagine that every thought that enters your mind is like a stranger knocking at your front door. Some visitors bring wisdom, some bring useful reminders, but others bring panic, confusion, and fear. You do not have to invite every visitor inside. You do not have to offer them a seat at your table, and you certainly do not have to let them take over your home. The same is true with your thoughts. Some thoughts deserve your attention, others deserve only your awareness. You notice them, you acknowledge them, then you let them pass. One of the greatest forms of freedom is realizing that a thought is not a prophecy, a fear is not a fact, an imagined future is not reality. The storm itself is not the problem. Storms will come, fearful thoughts will appear. Uncertainty is part of being human. The real problem begins when we believe that every storm inside our minds is telling us the truth. That is what steals our sleep. That is what steals our joy. That is what steals our peace. Many of the hardest battles you have fought in your life never actually happened outside of you. They happened inside your own mind. And perhaps the first step toward freedom is not learning how to stop every fearful thought. Perhaps it is learning to look at those thoughts and say, I see you. I understand you are trying to protect me, but I do not have to believe everything you say, because most storms pass, most fears fade, and reality is often much kinder than the stories fear tells us. The moment you stop treating every anxious thought as the truth, you begin to reclaim something precious. You reclaim your peace. You reclaim the present moment. And little by little, you stop suffering over futures that never arrive. You suffer from pain long before life delivers it. There is something very strange about the human mind. It often makes us suffer before life has even given us a reason to suffer. Think about how many times you have cried over a conversation that never happened. How many nights have you stayed awake because of a future that never arrived? How many times have you replayed a terrible possibility in your head so many times that your body reacted as if it had already become real? The truth is, many of us do not suffer only once. We suffer twice, sometimes even 100 times. First, we suffer in our imagination. Then, if something difficult actually happens, we suffer again. And often the painful event we feared never comes at all. Yet the suffering was real. The tears were real. The sleepless nights were real. The anxiety in your chest was real. Imagine a young man who finally receives an email inviting him to a job interview. Instead of feeling excited, his mind immediately begins creating disaster. What if I forget everything? What if they think I'm not good enough? What if I embarrass myself? What if I don't get the job? For the next 2 weeks, he lives in fear. He cannot enjoy dinner with his family. He cannot focus on the present moment. Even while watching his favorite movie, his mind drifts back to the interview. He rehearses failure over and over again. He imagines rejection. He imagines disappointment on the faces of people who believe in him. By the time the interview arrives, he feels exhausted. Then something unexpected happens. The interview goes well. The people are kind. He answers the questions honestly. A few days later, he gets the job. Think about that for a moment. Reality asked him to face one difficult hour, but his mind made him suffer for 14 days. How often have we done the same thing? You wait for medical test results and imagine the worst possible diagnosis. You convince yourself that one mistake means your entire future is ruined. You assume someone is angry with you because they seem quieter than usual. You imagine your relationship ending because of one disagreement. You prepare yourself for heartbreak before anyone has even hurt you. You stand in today's sunlight while grieving tomorrow's imaginary storm. The Buddha understood this deeply. He taught that pain is part of life. No one escapes sadness completely. No one avoids disappointment forever. Loss visits every human being. Change touches every life. But there is a difference between the pain life gives us and the suffering we create. Ourselves, life may hand you one arrow, but fear makes you shoot 10 more into your own heart. The first arrow is the natural pain of being human. The second arrow is the endless story the mind creates around that pain. Why did this happen? What if it happens again? I won't survive this. Everything is ruined. Nothing will ever get better. Very often, it is the second arrow that hurts us the most, because we keep firing it at ourselves again and again. Think about a parent waiting for their child to receive exam results. Before the results even arrive, the parent imagines failure. They imagine their child's dreams being destroyed. They imagine years of regret. Their mind races through every possible disaster. The child finally opens the results. Everything is fine. The fear was unnecessary, but the suffering had already happened. How many precious moments have we lost this way? How many family dinners have we missed emotionally because our minds were somewhere in an imagined future? How many beautiful sunsets passed unnoticed because we were busy worrying about things that never arrived? How many times have we hugged the people we love while secretly preparing ourselves to lose them? Fear has a way of stealing the present moment. It tells us that if we worry enough, we can prevent pain. It whispers that anxiety is protection, that overthinking is preparation, that expecting the worst is wisdom. But if that were true, the people who worried the most would be the happiest and safest people in the world. Instead, they are often the most exhausted, because fear never says, "That's enough." It always demands more planning, more imagining, more rehearsing, more suffering. The Buddha gently reminded people that this moment is already enough to carry. You do not need to carry tomorrow's burden as well. You do not have to solve problems that have not appeared. You do not have to grieve futures that do not exist. You do not have to fight battles that may never come. Life asks you to live today. Fear asks you to live in tomorrow, and only one of them is real. This does not mean ignoring responsibility. It does not mean pretending difficulties never happen. Wisdom prepares when preparation is needed. Wisdom takes action when action is required. But wisdom also knows when to put the burden down. It knows the difference between planning and punishing yourself, between being careful and being consumed by fear. Maybe the greatest tragedy is not that bad things happen to us. Maybe the greatest tragedy is that we spend so much of our lives suffering over things that never happen at all. Imagine how much energy you would have if you stopped borrowing pain from the future. Imagine how much peace would return to your heart. Imagine waking up in the morning without immediately searching for something to fear. Imagine eating your meals without anxiety sitting beside you. Imagine listening fully when someone you love speaks to you. Imagine laughing without guilt. Imagine resting without preparing for disaster. This is not carelessness, this freedom. The Buddha taught that peace becomes possible when we stop arguing with imaginary futures and return to the life unfolding in front of us. Yes, life will bring challenges. Yes, difficult days will come. But when they arrive, you will meet them then. Not now. Not every fear deserves your tears. Not every possibility deserves your suffering. Not every thought deserves your belief. Many of the painful futures your mind creates will never become reality. And one day, you may look back and realize that some of the hardest battles you fought were battles that existed only inside your own imagination. So be gentle with yourself. Breathe. Return to this moment. Do not force yourself to carry tomorrow's pain while trying to survive today, because today has enough beauty of its own. And perhaps true wisdom is learning that life is already asking enough from you. You do not need to add imaginary suffering to the weight you already carry. The future will arrive in its own time. When it does, trust that you will meet it with more strength, wisdom, and courage than fear wants you to believe. Until then, let today be today, and allow your heart to rest. The need to control the future destroys today's peace. At the root of so much worry is one simple desire, the desire to know what is going to happen, to know that everything will be okay, to know that the people we love will stay, to know that our plans will succeed, to know that life will unfold exactly the way we want it to. If we are honest with ourselves, this is what many of us are searching for every single day. Certainty. We tell ourselves, if I can just figure everything out, then I can relax. If I know what tomorrow brings, then I can finally feel safe. If I can control every possible outcome, then nothing can hurt me. But the more we try to control life, the more anxious we become. Because life has never made that promise. Life has always been uncertain. No one knows what tomorrow holds. No one can predict every conversation. No one can stop people from changing. No one can prevent every disappointment. No one can guarantee success. And yet, many of us spend our entire lives trying to do exactly that. We become exhausted, trying to control things that were never ours to control. Think about how much energy this takes. You replay conversations before they happen. You prepare answers to questions nobody has asked. You imagine every possible way things could go wrong. You create backup plans for backup plans. You try to read people's minds. You look for hidden meanings in every text message. You search for signs that trouble is coming. You constantly ask yourself, what if? What if they leave? What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if I lose everything? Little by little, your mind convinces you that if you think hard enough, worry long enough, and prepare enough, you can somehow control the future. But has it ever truly worked? Think about your own life. How many of the biggest moments happened exactly the way you expected? Probably very few. Life has a way of surprising us. Sometimes things turn out much better than we imagined. Sometimes they turn out differently. Sometimes difficult moments arrive, and we discover a strength inside ourselves we never knew existed. But almost never does life unfold exactly according to the script our minds have written. There was once a man who loved gardening. Every morning he carefully watered his plants. He removed weeds. He protected them from insects. He did everything he could to help them grow. But every evening he would walk outside and stare at the sky. What if it rains too much? What if there is a storm? What if the weather destroys everything? What if all my work is wasted? Day after day, he worried about things he could not control. Eventually, he realized something important. He could plant the seeds. He could care for the garden. He could do his part with love and attention. But he could not control the rain. He could not command the wind. He could not negotiate with the seasons. And by spending all his time fearing the weather, he had forgotten to enjoy the beauty of the flowers already blooming. Isn't this how many of us live? We do our best. We work hard. We love deeply. We plan wisely. But then we demand guarantees from life. Guarantees life cannot give. The Buddha taught that attachment is one of the great causes of suffering, and one of the deepest attachments we carry is our attachment to certainty. We become attached to knowing, attached to control, attached to outcomes. We believe peace can only come after life gives us proof that everything will go our way. But if peace depends on certainty, then peace will always remain out of reach, because certainty does not exist. The truth is both frightening and freeing. You cannot control whether people understand you. You cannot control whether everyone likes you. You cannot control whether people stay forever. You cannot control every result. You cannot control the future, and perhaps you were never meant to, because trying to control everything is like trying to hold water tightly in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the more slips away. Imagine standing beside the ocean. You look at the waves and say, "I will only be at peace when these waves stop." You wait, and wait, and wait. But the waves keep coming, because waves are what oceans do. Uncertainty is what life does. Change is what life does. People change. Circumstances change. Seasons change. Nothing stays exactly the same. The Buddha never taught people how to eliminate uncertainty. He taught them how to remain steady within it, to stop fighting the nature of life, to stop demanding that reality behave differently, to stop saying, "I can only be happy if everything goes according to plan." Because what if it doesn't? Can you still laugh? Can you still love? Can you still trust yourself? Can you still find beauty in the middle of uncertainty? The answer is yes. Real peace is not found in controlling life. Real peace is found in learning to meet life as it comes. This does not mean giving up. It does not mean becoming careless. It does not mean refusing to plan for the future. Wisdom still prepares. Wisdom still takes responsibility. Wisdom still makes thoughtful decisions. But wisdom understands the difference between preparation and obsession. You can prepare for tomorrow without living there. You can make plans without becoming attached to them. You can care deeply without trying to control every outcome. There is an old saying, "You cannot stop birds from flying over your head, but you can stop them from building nests in your hair." Uncertainty will visit your mind. Fear will appear. Questions about the future will arise. But you do not have to let them take over your life. You do not have to build a home inside uncertainty. You do not have to spend today's peace paying for tomorrow's possibilities. Think about how much of your life has already been spent waiting to finally relax. I'll be happy when I get the job. I'll be peaceful when I find the right person. I'll rest when I have enough money. I'll breathe when everything is certain. But one condition leads to another, and another, and another, until years pass by, and you realize you never allowed yourself to truly live. You were always waiting for permission from the future. The Buddha gently invited people back to this moment, not because the future does not matter, but because this moment is where life is happening, this conversation, this breath, this cup of coffee, the sound of rain outside your window, the smile of someone you love, the quiet moments that fear often steals from us. The future will come. It always does. And when it arrives, you will meet it then. You have survived difficult days before. You have adapted to unexpected changes. You have found your way through pain you once believed would break you. There is wisdom inside you. There is resilience inside you. There is strength inside you. More than fear allows you to see. Perhaps peace does not come from knowing exactly what tomorrow holds. Perhaps peace comes from trusting that whatever tomorrow brings, you will face it with an open heart. You do not need certainty to live a beautiful life. You only need the courage to show up fully for the life that is already here. Because the need to control the future steals today's joy, but trust gives it back. And maybe the greatest freedom of all is finally saying, I will do my best with what I can control, and I will let go of what I cannot. Then, for the first time in a very long while, your shoulders relax. Your breathing softens. Your heart becomes lighter, because you realize that peace was never hidden inside certainty. Peace was hidden inside surrender, inside trust, inside this moment. And this moment has been waiting for you all along. Not every thought deserves your belief. One of the biggest reasons people suffer is because they believe everything their mind tells them. A thought appears, and without questioning it, we immediately accept it as the truth. The mind says, you are not good enough, and we believe it. It says, everyone is judging you, and we believe it. It whispers, you're going to fail. You always ruin things. Nobody truly cares about you. You'll never heal. Your future is hopeless. And before we even realize what is happening, these thoughts begin to shape the way we see ourselves, the people around us, and the entire world. But have you ever stopped and asked yourself a simple question? Just because I think something, does that automatically make it true? The answer is no. Not every thought is wisdom. Not every thought is reality. Not every thought deserves your trust. Think about this. Have you ever been absolutely certain someone was angry with you, only to find out later they were simply tired? Have you ever convinced yourself that you embarrassed yourself in front of everyone, only to discover nobody even noticed? Have you ever believed you would fail at something, but then surprised yourself by succeeding? Of course you have, because the mind is not only capable of creating beautiful ideas, it is also capable of creating illusions. The mind tells stories. Some stories are helpful, others are born from fear, some are based on truth, others are based on old wounds, insecurity, and imagination. The problem begins when we stop questioning those stories. Imagine sitting in a movie theater. A frightening scene appears on the screen. Your heart races, your emotions react. For a moment it feels real. But deep down you know something important. You know you are watching a movie. You know the images are passing across a screen. You know you don't have to run out of the theater screaming. Now imagine treating your thoughts in the same way. A fearful thought appears. What if I lose everything? What if nobody loves me? What if I never become happy? Instead of immediately believing it, you simply notice it. You say to yourself, "Interesting. My mind is creating a fearful story right now." Suddenly, there is space between you and the thought, and in that space, freedom begins. The Buddha taught that awareness changes everything. Most people live inside their thoughts without realizing it. They become whatever the mind says. If the mind says they are worthless, they believe they are worthless. If the mind says they are unsafe, they believe they are unsafe. If the mind says disaster is coming, they spend their days preparing for disasters that never arrive. It is as if they are passengers trapped inside a small car with fear holding the steering wheel. But mindfulness teaches something completely different. You are not the passenger. You are the observer. You are the awareness noticing the movement of the mind. Thoughts come, thoughts go. But the part of you that notices them remains. Think of the sky. Clouds move through it every day. Some clouds are white and peaceful. Others are dark and heavy. Some bring rain. Some disappear within minutes. But no matter what kind of clouds appear, the sky itself remains untouched. Your mind is like those clouds. Fearful thoughts are clouds. Angry thoughts are clouds. Self-critical thoughts are clouds. Anxious thoughts are clouds. But your awareness is the sky. The sky does not fight the clouds. It allows them to pass. Many people spend years fighting with their thoughts. I shouldn't think this. I need to stop worrying. Why is my mind like this? And the more they fight, the stronger the thoughts seem to become. But the Buddha offered another path. Instead of fighting the thought, simply observe it. Notice it without judgment. Acknowledge its presence, then let it pass. Imagine you are sitting beside a busy road. Hundreds of cars drive by. Some are beautiful, some are old, some move quickly, others slowly. Would you jump into every single car that passed? Of course not. Then why do we climb into every thought that passes through our minds? One thought says, "You are going to embarrass yourself." So we climb inside and spend hours imagining humiliation. Another thought says, "Nobody appreciates you." So we climb inside and replay every painful memory. Another thought says, "Something terrible is about to happen." And suddenly, our entire day becomes filled with fear. The truth is, you do not have to enter every vehicle your mind sends your way. You can simply stand by the road and watch. There's fear, there's doubt, there's insecurity, there's sadness. You acknowledge them, but you do not become them. This understanding can completely change a person's life. Because many people have spent years believing they are broken. They think, "I am an anxious person. I am a negative person. I am a fearful person." But perhaps the truth is simpler. Perhaps you are not fear. Perhaps you are simply a human being having fearful thoughts. And there is a very important difference between the two. A thought saying, "I am worthless," does not mean you are worthless. A thought saying, "I will never heal," does not mean healing is impossible. A thought saying, "My life will always be this way," does not mean the future has already been decided. Thoughts are not prophecies. They are not commands. They are not facts. They are experiences moving through the mind. The Buddha once compared the mind to a wild monkey swinging from branch to branch, always moving, always restless, always searching. One moment it worries about the future. The next moment it regrets the past. Then it judges. Then it fears. Then it desires. Then it doubts. If you blindly follow that monkey everywhere it goes, peace becomes impossible. But when you sit quietly and observe the monkey without chasing after it, something extraordinary happens. Its power begins to fade. The mind becomes calmer. Its stories become less convincing. Its fears lose their grip. And you begin to realize that you have a choice. You can choose which thoughts deserve your attention. You can choose which stories you continue feeding. You can choose to speak to yourself with kindness instead of cruelty. You can choose reality over imagination. This does not mean fearful thoughts will disappear forever. They won't. Even wise people experience fear. Even peaceful people have anxious moments. Even the strongest minds encounter doubt. The difference is that they no longer worship every thought that appears. They no longer treat fear as truth. They no longer hand over their peace so easily. Perhaps one of the greatest forms of wisdom is learning to pause before believing the voice inside your head, to ask gently, is this thought true? Do I know this for certain? Is this fear speaking, or is this reality? And often, you will discover that the voice creating your suffering is not telling the whole truth. Because not every thought deserves your belief. Not every fear deserves your obedience. Not every story deserves to become your identity. The mind will continue producing thoughts for the rest of your life. That is simply what minds do. But you get to decide which ones you nurture, which ones you release, and which ones you smile at and say, thank you for your opinion, but I choose not to follow you today. The moment you stop believing everything you think is the moment you begin reclaiming your freedom. Because peace does not come from controlling every thought. Peace comes from realizing that you are so much more than the thoughts passing through your mind. You are the awareness behind them, the quiet presence beneath them, the stillness that remains when fear finally passes. And that stillness has been inside you all along. Old wounds turn tomorrow into a threat. Not all fear comes from the future. Sometimes fear comes from the past. Sometimes the reason you worry so much today has nothing to do with what is happening right now. It has everything to do with what happened to you before. Maybe someone you deeply trusted betrayed you. Maybe someone you loved walked away without warning. Maybe you gave your whole heart to a relationship that ended in pain. Maybe you worked hard for something and still failed. Maybe you were criticized so often that you started believing you would never be enough. Maybe you grew up in an environment where you never felt completely safe, where you had to constantly pay attention to people's moods, where you learned to expect disappointment before joy, where love felt uncertain, where peace never lasted long. Pain has a strange way of leaving fingerprints on the mind. Even after the moment passes, the memory remains. And without realizing it, the mind begins making a promise to itself, never let this happen again. At first, it sounds wise, it sounds protective, it sounds like strength. But slowly, protection turns into fear. The mind starts looking for danger everywhere. A delayed text message feels like rejection. A small disagreement feels like the beginning of abandonment. A simple mistake feels like proof that failure is coming. Silence becomes a threat. Distance becomes a warning sign. Uncertainty becomes unbearable. You stop responding to the present moment. Instead, you begin responding to old pain. Imagine a woman whose heart was broken years ago. She loved deeply. She trusted completely. Then one day, the person she depended on left. The pain was overwhelming. She promised herself she would never go through that again. Years later, she meets someone kind, someone patient, someone who genuinely cares about her. But every time they take a little longer to reply, fear awakens. They're losing interest. They're going to leave. I shouldn't trust them. Every small misunderstanding feels enormous, not because of what is happening now, but because her heart is remembering what happened before. She isn't only seeing the person in front of her, she is also seeing the ghost of her past. Many of us live this way. A man who lost his job unexpectedly begins fearing failure in every opportunity that follows. A child who was constantly criticized grows into an adult who hears rejection, even in neutral words. Someone who experienced betrayal starts doubting people who have done nothing wrong. Old wounds teach us to expect new pain. The mind believes it is protecting us. It whispers, "Be careful. Don't trust too much. Don't get excited. Don't hope too much. Don't become attached." Because if you don't expect happiness, maybe disappointment won't hurt as much. But there is a hidden cost to living this way. You may protect yourself from some pain, but you also protect yourself from love, from joy, from connection, from possibility, from life itself. The Buddha taught that all things are constantly changing. Nothing stays exactly the same. Not people, not circumstances, not emotions, not seasons, not even you. The person who hurt you in the past is not every person you will ever meet. The disappointment you experienced before is not a prediction of your future. The heartbreak you survived is not proof that your story can only end in suffering. The mind loves certainty. So when it has been hurt, it often says, "It happened once, it will happen again." But wisdom asks a different question. What if this moment is different? What if this person is different? What if I am different? Because you are not the same person you were years ago. You have learned, you have grown, you have survived. You carry wisdom now that you didn't have before. Think about all the difficult moments you once believed would destroy you. The breakup you thought you would never recover from. The failure that made you question yourself. The loss that brought you to tears. The disappointment that shattered your expectations. You survived all of it. You may not have survived perfectly. You may have cried. You may have stumbled. You may have spent nights wondering if you would ever feel whole again. But you are still here. Breathing. Learning. Growing. And that matters. Many people believe healing means forgetting the past. But healing is not forgetting. Healing is remembering without reliving. It is looking back without allowing old pain to control your present choices. It is honoring what happened without allowing it to decide who you become. The Buddha never asked people to pretend they had never been hurt. He invited them to see suffering clearly, to understand it, to sit with it, and eventually to loosen its grip. One of the most compassionate things you can do for yourself is stop blaming yourself for being afraid. Your fear developed for a reason. It was trying to protect you. It learned from experience. It wanted to keep you safe. So instead of hating the fearful parts of yourself, try understanding them. When fear appears, imagine speaking to it gently. I know why you're here. I know you're trying to protect me. But I don't need to live as if danger is everywhere. I don't need to punish myself for what someone else did. I don't need to turn every tomorrow into another version of yesterday. Because not every ending repeats itself. Not every person leaves. Not every opportunity fails. Not every dream falls apart. Life has hurt you before, but life has also surprised you. It has brought unexpected kindness, unexpected friendships, unexpected healing, unexpected strength. The same future you fear may also contain moments of beauty you cannot yet imagine. A smile from someone you haven't met, a chance you never expected, a peace you thought was impossible. A version of yourself that finally stops living in survival mode. The greatest tragedy is not that painful things happen. Pain is part of being human. The greatest tragedy is allowing yesterday's pain to steal today's peace and tomorrow's possibility. You deserve more than survival. You deserve to feel safe enough to laugh again. To trust carefully without closing your heart completely. To hope without apologizing for it. To dream without immediately preparing for disappointment. The past can offer wisdom, but it should not become your prison. Let it teach you. Let it strengthen you. Let it deepen your compassion. But do not let it convince you that fear is the only way to stay safe, because the truth is this: you have already survived things you once thought would break you. You are stronger than the memories that haunt you, wiser than the wounds that shaped you, and more capable of love, trust, and healing than fear wants you to believe. Perhaps the future is not another enemy waiting to hurt you. Perhaps it is simply an unopened chapter. And maybe, for the first time in a long while, you can approach that chapter not with suspicion, but with curiosity. Not asking, "How will life hurt me next?" but gently wondering, "What beautiful things might still be waiting for me?" Because healing does not happen the moment fear disappears. Healing happens the moment you stop allowing old wounds to decide what is possible for your future. And, little by little, your heart begins to understand something it has forgotten for a very long time. The past happened, but it is over. This moment is new. Tomorrow has not been written, and you are free to walk toward it without carrying every shadow from yesterday. Most of the danger exists only in your mind. Right now, I want you to pause for a moment. Not tomorrow, not later, right now. Take a slow breath in and let it out. Then ask yourself a simple question. In this exact moment, what is actually wrong? Not what might go wrong tomorrow. Not what happened 5 years ago. Not what your anxious mind is predicting. What is truly happening right now? Look around you. Notice the room you are sitting in. Feel your feet touching the floor. Notice the chair supporting your body. Listen to the sounds around you. Perhaps there is the gentle hum of a fan, the sound of rain outside your window, the distant noise of traffic, the quiet breathing of someone you love sleeping nearby. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. Notice that you are here. You are alive. You have made it to this moment. And for many people listening to this right now, something surprising becomes clear. At this exact moment, they are safe. Yet their minds are telling a completely different story. The body is sitting in peace, but the mind is preparing for war. The body is drinking coffee. The mind is losing a job that hasn't been lost. The body is lying in bed. The mind is attending a funeral that hasn't happened. The body is eating dinner with family. The mind is replaying an argument that may never take place. The body is driving home. The mind is imagining accidents and disasters. This is one of the greatest tricks of fear. It steals you away from the only place life actually exists. The present moment. Fear almost always lives somewhere else. It lives in tomorrow. What if this happens? What if everything falls apart? What if I lose what I love? Regret lives somewhere else too. It lives in yesterday. I should have done things differently. I wish I had said something else. I can't believe I made that mistake. And while the mind travels endlessly between yesterday and tomorrow, life quietly continues without us. The tea grows cold, the sunset disappears, the laughter of our children passes by, the voice of someone we love fades into the background because we were not really listening. We miss the life we are living because we are too busy preparing for the life we fear. A man once went hiking through a beautiful forest. Towering trees surrounded him. Birds sang above him. Sunlight danced through the leaves. Fresh air filled his lungs. It should have been one of the most peaceful experiences of his life. But his mind refused to let him enjoy it. What if I lose my job next month? What if I never earn enough money? What if something happens to my family? What if I fail? Hours passed. He returned home exhausted, not because of the hike, but because he had spent the entire journey carrying imaginary burdens. Years later, he could barely remember the beauty of the forest, but he remembered the fear. How tragic it is that fear can steal even the moments that were meant to heal us. How many times have you done this? You finally go on vacation, but your mind stays at work. You sit at your child's school event, but your thoughts are trapped inside tomorrow's worries. You finally have a quiet evening at home, but instead of resting, you search for new reasons to be afraid. Even when life offers peace, fear says, "Don't relax yet, something bad could happen." Stay alert, prepare yourself. But here's the question: how many peaceful moments have you sacrificed trying to prevent pain that never arrived? How many sunsets have you missed? How many hugs have you half felt? How many meals have you rushed it through? How many nights have you spent awake while life was asking you to rest? The Buddha understood this deeply. Again and again he brought people back to the present moment, not because the future doesn't matter, and not because the past has nothing to teach us, but because this moment is the only place where life can actually be lived. You cannot breathe yesterday's air. You cannot touch tomorrow's sunlight. You cannot hear tomorrow's laughter. Life only meets you here, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this ordinary moment that fear keeps convincing you to overlook. There is a story about a monk who was asked the secret of his peace. The person said, "You always seem calm. You always seem present. What is your secret?" The monk smiled and replied, "When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I listen, I listen." The person laughed. "But everyone does that." The monk gently shook his head. "No, most people eat while worrying, walk while regretting, listen while preparing what they will say next. Their bodies are in one place, their minds are somewhere else." How true that is. How often are we physically present but mentally absent? Our loved ones sit across from us, yet we barely see them. Nature surrounds us, yet we hardly notice it. Our lives unfold before our eyes, yet fear steals our attention. The greatest loss is not always losing something. Sometimes, the greatest loss is never fully experiencing what we already have. The smell of morning coffee, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of your mother's voice, the laughter of your children, the comfort of your bed after a long day, the friend who checks in on you, the simple miracle of being alive. These moments may seem ordinary, but one day they will become extraordinary memories, and fear often robs us of them. This doesn't mean pretending that life has no problems. It doesn't mean ignoring responsibilities. You still pay your bills. You still prepare for important events. You still make wise decisions. But wisdom knows when preparation ends and unnecessary suffering begins. Wisdom says, "I will handle what is in front of me. I will face challenges when they arrive. But I will not abandon this moment to solve problems that do not yet exist." Because the truth is this: many of the dangers your mind predicts never become reality. Many of the fears keeping you awake never knock on your door. Many of the disasters you rehearse never arrive. And while you were busy surviving imaginary futures, real life was quietly asking for your attention. Real life was waiting for you in the laughter you almost missed, in the conversations you barely heard, in the peaceful evenings you couldn't enjoy, in the ordinary moments you thought would always be there. Perhaps peace is not something you need to chase. Perhaps peace has been here all along, hidden inside this breath, hidden inside this moment, waiting patiently for you to return. So the next time fear rushes in and tells you that disaster is near, pause for a moment, take a breath, look around. Ask yourself, what is true right now? Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. Maybe your answer will surprise you. Maybe in this exact moment you are safe. Maybe in this exact moment nothing terrible is happening. Maybe in this exact moment there is still beauty to notice, still love to receive, still life to experience. The future will come when it comes. The past has already gone, but this moment is your life. Do not let fear steal it from you, because one day you may realize that the peace you spent years searching for was never hiding in a perfect future. It was waiting quietly in the present moment. It was waiting for you to come home to your own life, and it has been here all along. True courage is walking through uncertainty with an open heart. Many people spend their entire lives waiting to become fearless. They tell themselves, when I stop being afraid, then I'll follow my dreams. When I feel more confident, then I'll speak up. When I know everything will work out, then I'll take the risk. When I no longer have doubts, then I'll begin. But what if that day never comes? What if courage was never about waiting for fear to disappear? What if courage means something completely different? Most people imagine courage as the absence of fear. They picture a person who never worries, someone who never doubts themselves, someone who always feels strong, someone who moves through life without uncertainty. But if you look closely at the people you admire most, you will discover something surprising. They were afraid too. The person who started over after losing everything was afraid. The mother raising her children while carrying her own worries was afraid. The man who changed careers in the middle of life was afraid. The woman who opened her heart again after heartbreak was afraid. The student who walked into the examination room was afraid. The person who stood up after failure and tried one more time was afraid. Fear was present, but fear did not make the decision, and that is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing not to let fear decide how you live. Imagine a young girl learning how to ride a bicycle for the first time. She falls. She scrapes her knees. Tears fill her eyes. "I can't do it," she says. "It hurts. It's scary." Her father kneels beside her and gently asks, "Are you afraid?" She nods. Then he smiles and says, "You don't have to stop being afraid before trying again." Slowly she gets back on the bicycle. Her hands shake. Her heart beats faster. She wobbles down the road. But this time she rides a little farther, not because fear disappeared, but because she moved forward anyway. This is how every meaningful part of life works. You apply for the job, even though rejection is possible. You start the business, even though success is uncertain. You express your feelings, even though you might not hear what you hope to hear. You trust again, even though someone once broke your heart. You speak up, even though your voice shakes. You begin again, even though you remember how painful failure once felt. Fear whispers, "Wait, not yet. You are not ready. What if things go wrong?" But life quietly asks, "What if things go right?" Fear asks, "What if you fail?" Life asks, "What if you grow?" Fear asks, "What if you get hurt?" Life asks, "What if this becomes one of the most beautiful chapters of your story?" The Buddha never promised people a life without uncertainty. He never said that if you became wise enough, fear would vanish forever. Instead, he taught people how to relate differently to fear. He taught that suffering grows when we resist reality. And reality is this: nothing in life comes with guarantees. People change, circumstances change, bodies age, plans shift, opportunities appear and disappear. Life itself is uncertain, but uncertainty is not the enemy. It is simply the nature of existence. The problem is that many of us believe we need certainty before we allow ourselves to live. We wait for the perfect moment, the perfect feeling, the perfect assurance, and while we wait, life passes by. The trip we wanted to take never happens. The words we wanted to say remain trapped inside us. The dreams we wanted to pursue stay buried beneath fear. One day turns into 1 year. 1 year turns into 10. And eventually, we realize we spent more time preparing to live than actually living. Think about all the moments in your own life when fear told you that you couldn't do something. Remember the first day at a new school, the first interview, the first time you drove a car alone, the first presentation you gave, the first difficult conversation you had, the first time you loved someone deeply. You were afraid, and yet somehow you survived. Maybe not perfectly. Maybe your voice shook. Maybe you stumbled. Maybe you made mistakes. But you made it through. You adapted. You learned. You discovered strength you didn't know you possessed. Fear often forgets to remind you of this. Fear loves to show you everything that could go wrong, but it rarely reminds you of everything you have already overcome. Look at your life. You have survived heartbreak. You have survived disappointment. You have survived uncertainty. You have survived days when you thought you couldn't continue. There were moments when you believed you would never smile again. Moments when you thought the pain would never end. Moments when you questioned whether you were strong enough. And yet, here you are. Still breathing, still learning, still growing, still hoping. The very fact that you are listening to these words means that fear has not defeated you. You may have scars, but you are still standing. Perhaps courage is not becoming fearless. Perhaps courage is trusting yourself enough to walk through uncertainty. It is understanding that you do not need to know every answer before taking the next step. You do not need to predict the entire future before beginning. You do not need to guarantee success before trying. You only need enough courage for this moment. Just this step, then the next, and then the one after that. The Buddha often encouraged people to return to the present moment because the future is too large to carry all at once. You do not climb a mountain by reaching the summit in one leap. You climb by taking one step, one breath, one choice, one act of courage. Maybe today, your act of courage is small. Maybe it means asking for help. Maybe it means resting without guilt. Maybe it means forgiving yourself for a mistake. Maybe it means sending the message you've been afraid to send. Maybe it means trying again after giving up. Maybe it means finally believing that your life deserves more than fear. Do not underestimate small acts of bravery. A seed does not become a tree overnight. A river shapes mountains one drop at a time. Transformation often happens quietly, in the tiny moments when fear says, run, and you choose to stay, when fear says, give up, and you choose to continue, when fear says, hide, and you choose to show up exactly as you are. This is courage, not loud, not dramatic, not perfect, just human. The truth is, there will always be reasons to be afraid. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be things beyond your control. If you wait until fear disappears completely, you may spend your entire life waiting. But if you learn to carry fear without obeying it, everything changes. You begin to trust yourself. You stop asking, "What if I can't handle it?" And you start remembering, "What if I can?" Because you have handled difficult things before. You have endured pain before. You have rebuilt yourself before. You have found your way through darkness before. You are far more capable than fear allows you to see. One day, you may look back on this chapter of your life and realize that courage was never the absence of fear. It was every moment you chose love over protection, growth over comfort, faith over certainty, life over imagination. And perhaps the bravest thing you will ever do is this: to open your heart to life, knowing that nothing is guaranteed, to love even though loss exists, to hope even though disappointment is possible, to dream even though failure may come, to trust that whatever happens, you will meet it with wisdom. Because confidence is not believing that nothing bad will ever happen. Confidence is knowing that even if life becomes difficult, you will not abandon yourself. You will breathe, you will adapt, you will rise again. And step by step, fear loses its authority over your life, not because it disappears, but because you finally understand something beautiful. Fear can walk beside you, but it no longer gets to decide where you go. And that is true courage. The kind of courage the Buddha pointed toward. The kind that transforms ordinary people into peaceful souls. The kind that whispers softly, "I am afraid, but I will live anyway." And sometimes, that single decision changes everything. The life you fear almost never becomes reality. I want you to do something with me. Take a moment and look back at your life. Think about all the things you once believed would destroy you. All the nights you couldn't sleep. All the fears that made your heart race. All the terrible futures your mind convinced you were waiting just around the corner. Remember the conversations you rehearsed 100 times in your head. The disasters you prepared yourself for. The heartbreaks you imagined before anyone had even left. The failures you expected before you had even begun. The diagnoses you feared before hearing any results. The judgments you were certain people were making about you. The endings you cried over before they ever arrived. Now ask yourself honestly, how many of those fears actually happened exactly the way your mind predicted? Not some of them. Not a small part of them. Exactly the way your mind convinced you they would happen. For most people, the answer is astonishing. Very few, maybe none at all. And yet, the suffering was real. The tears were real. The sleepless nights were real. The anxiety was real. The exhaustion was real. The mind created storms that reality never delivered. Think about that. You have probably spent years fighting battles that never arrived. Years carrying burdens that were never yours to carry. Years sacrificing today's peace to pay for tomorrow's imaginary disasters. How much life have you missed because of fear? How many beautiful mornings began with anxiety instead of gratitude? How many family dinners were interrupted by thoughts of things that never happened? How many vacations were overshadowed by worries waiting for you back home? How many times did you hold someone you loved while secretly preparing yourself to lose them? How many sunsets passed unnoticed because your mind was busy rehearsing tragedies? Fear has a way of making us believe that suffering in advance will somehow protect us. It whispers, "If you expect the worst, you won't be disappointed. If you worry enough, you'll be prepared. If you stay anxious, you'll stay safe." But has it ever truly worked? Did worrying stop people from leaving? Did anxiety prevent every mistake? Did sleepless nights guarantee better outcomes? Did fear give you control over life? No, It simply stole the moments that belonged to you. A man once spent years convinced he would lose everything. Every day he worried about money. He feared becoming poor. He feared failure. He feared not being able to provide for the people he loved. He worked tirelessly. But even on days when everything was fine, he couldn't rest. He couldn't laugh freely. He couldn't enjoy dinner with his family, because his mind was always somewhere else. Decades later, as he looked back on his life, he realized something heartbreaking. Most of the disasters he spent his life fearing never happened. But the fear itself had stolen years he could never get back. He had survived problems that never existed. How many of us are doing the same thing? We postpone joy. We delay peace. We wait for permission from the future to finally relax. I'll be happy when everything is certain. I'll enjoy life when nothing can go wrong. I'll rest when all my worries disappear. But that day never comes. Because life has never promised certainty. There will always be another what if, another possibility, another reason fear can find to keep you awake. The Buddha understood this truth deeply. He saw that much of human suffering is not created by reality itself. It is created by our resistance to reality, by our attempts to control what cannot be controlled, by our attachment to imaginary futures. He taught that freedom begins when we see things clearly, not as fear describes them, but as they truly are. And what is true right now? Right now, this breath is real. This heartbeat is real. The people around you are real. The warmth of sunlight on your skin is real. The sound of laughter is real. The meal in front of you is real. The hand you are holding is real. The beauty of this ordinary moment is real. But the catastrophe fear is predicting, it may never arrive. This does not mean life is free from pain. Difficult things happen. People experience loss. Hearts break. Dreams change. Illness comes. Goodbyes are spoken. The Buddha never denied this. He never encouraged people to pretend suffering does not exist. Instead, he asked a different question. Why suffer 1,000 times for a pain life may only ask you to face once? If pain arrives, meet it then. If grief comes, honor it then. If challenges appear, face them with courage then. But do not force yourself to live through tragedies that have not happened. Do not make yourself cry over endings that do not exist. Do not carry burdens borrowed from futures that have not yet arrived. The truth is, you are stronger than fear remembers. Think about everything you have already survived. The heartbreaks, the disappointments, the failures, the lonely nights, the moments you believed you wouldn't make it through. You survived them. You adapted. You healed. You found your way. Fear always says you won't be able to handle it. But your life tells another story. Your life says, you've done hard things before. You've risen after falling. You've found light in dark places. You are more resilient than you know. Perhaps the greatest tragedy is not that bad things happen. The greatest tragedy is spending your entire life preparing for storms that never come, while missing the sunshine that was already shining around you. Imagine what your life would feel like if you stopped doing that. Imagine waking up without immediately searching for something to fear. Imagine drinking your morning coffee without anxiety sitting beside you. Imagine listening fully when someone you love speaks. Imagine laughing without guilt. Imagine resting without expecting disaster. Imagine trusting that this moment is enough. Imagine allowing yourself to be happy before the future gives you permission. Because happiness is not a reward you earn once life becomes perfect. Peace is not something waiting for you at the end of certainty. Peace is a choice you practice now. In the middle of uncertainty, in the middle of an unfinished life, in the middle of unanswered questions. The Buddha taught that wisdom is seeing reality as it is. Thoughts are temporary, fear is uncertain, life is changing, and this moment is precious. One day you may reach the end of your life and realize something extraordinary. The things that mattered most were never the disasters you spent years imagining. It was the quiet mornings, the conversations around the dinner table, the laughter shared with friends, the hugs you gave, the walks you took, the sunsets you watched, the moments you were fully present enough to notice that life was happening. Not in some distant future, but right here. Perhaps that is the deepest lesson of all. Most of your worries never become reality, but your life does. This moment does. The people you love do. The opportunities before you do. The peace available to you right now does. So, stop asking fear to predict your future. Stop handing over today's joy to tomorrow's imagination. Stop fighting battles that only exist inside your mind. Come back to this breath. Come back to this moment. Come back to the life waiting patiently for your attention. Because the future has not been written, and maybe it contains far more beauty than fear allows you to see. Maybe there are people you have not met who will change your life. Maybe there are joys you cannot yet imagine. Maybe there are answers coming that will soften your heart. Maybe there are blessings quietly making their way toward you. You do not know. And that uncertainty, the very thing fear wants you to hate, is also the place where hope lives. So choose hope, choose presence, choose to trust life a little more than you trust fear, because most of your worries never become reality. But if you keep surrendering your peace to them, they will steal the only thing that truly belongs to you. This moment, and this moment, however ordinary it may seem, is your life. Do not miss it. Be here. Breathe deeply, look around, and allow yourself, perhaps for the very first time in a long while, to believe that reality may be far kinder than fear has led you to believe, because it often is. Before you leave, I want you to remember one simple truth. You have spent enough of your life suffering over things that never happened. You have lost enough sleep over futures that never arrived. You have fought enough imaginary battles inside your own mind. You have carried enough burdens that were never yours to carry. And maybe it is time to put them down. Maybe it is time to stop asking fear to predict your future. Maybe it is time to stop preparing your heart for disasters that only exist in imagination. Maybe it is time to stop abandoning the life that is happening right now because of the life you are afraid might happen someday. Look at everything you have already survived. The heartbreaks you thought would destroy you. The disappointments you believed you would never recover from. The seasons when you felt completely lost. The nights you cried in silence. The moments when you honestly didn't know how you would keep going. And yet, you are still here. Your heart is still beating. Your lungs are still breathing. There is still kindness inside you. There is still hope inside you. There is still a part of you that believes life can be beautiful again. Please don't ignore that part of yourself. Fear has spoken to you for long enough. Now let wisdom speak. The future has not happened yet. The stories your anxious mind tells you are not written in stone. Not every fear is a prophecy. Not every thought is the truth. Not every storm reaches your shore. Most of your worries never become reality. But this moment does. This breath does. The people you love do. The chance to begin again does. The opportunity to choose peace does. So, when fear visits your mind tomorrow, don't fight it. Simply smile and say, I know you're trying to protect me, but I choose not to suffer for a future that hasn't arrived. I choose to be here, I choose this moment. I choose to live. Because one day, when you look back on your life, I don't think you'll regret the problems you didn't predict. I think you'll regret the sunsets you didn't notice, the laughter you were too distracted to hear, the people you loved while secretly living somewhere else inside your fears. Don't let that happen. Life is not waiting for you on the other side of certainty. Life is happening now, in ordinary moments, in quiet mornings, in shared meals, in deep breaths, in the simple miracle of being alive. So slow down, put your hand on your heart, take one deep breath, and remind yourself, I don't need to know everything. I don't need to control everything. I don't need to fear everything. I only need to live this moment fully. And perhaps that is the deepest wisdom of all. The mind may create thousands of frightening stories, but your soul was never meant to live inside them. You were meant to experience life, to love, to learn, to laugh, to heal, to begin again, and to discover that peace was never as far away as you imagined. It has been within you all along. If this message touched your heart, take a moment to let me know in the comments. I choose peace over fear. Write those words not for me, but as a promise to yourself. And if someone you love is carrying invisible worries and fighting battles that haven't happened yet, share this video with them. You never know who might need this reminder today. And if you're walking this journey with us, searching for inner peace, freedom from overthinking, and the wisdom to live more fully, subscribe and join this community. Because you don't have to face the noise of the mind alone. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. Trust life a little more than you trust fear. And remember, most of your worries never become reality. But the peace available to you right now is real. Don't miss it.